Welcome to Let's Talk.
We sit down and talk. We need to sit down and talk. I know how Nigeria should go, how we're going to do our job.
We want to stand up and say no to corruption. We're going to do our job because you're telling the system. You are not just doing good for yourself or for the nation, you also do good for the future.
Boko Haram is an attack, it's a spiritual attack. It's a satanic attack on Nigeria. We must, if we come to recognize it, we will understand then how to look for the solution.
The Sovereign National Conference, how do we want to achieve that in our present system? We need to sit down and iron out how Nigeria should be governed.
Thanks for joining us on another edition of Let's Talk. Now, as Nigeria's government continues its reform agenda within the nation's power sector for effective service delivery, we are continuing to see certain challenges here and there to that effect. Now, what has to happen for us to have a smooth reform agenda? What has to happen for us to see a smooth privatization of the power sector actually? Now, these are some of the questions that we will be hoping to find answers to in today's discussion. We are looking at working towards a smooth power sector privatization in Nigeria. That's our topic. That is, working towards a smooth power sector privatization in Nigeria. And today I have with me Kelechi Anyalechi. He is a management consultant. He is a peak performance coach. He is also a social expert. Thanks a whole lot for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so we are looking at the reform agenda of the Nigerian government, which the president has assured us or told us that it was one of his the major aim of his administration, sure. Getting a stable power and all of that. Yeah. But the past weeks or so, the past month, we're beginning to see certain, challenges here and there that are trying to delay, as it were, the privatization process sure. of the Nigerian Electricity Company, which is the power holding company of Nigeria, and the power sector in general. Now, we want to look at some of the things that are hindering, a smooth reform agenda, smooth privatization. On top of the list is the labor issue, the labor dispute, but we will get to that in a moment. I want us to start from the power minister who some time ago said that the nation, as at December 2011, that the nation would have been able to produce about 5,500 megawatts of electricity, and that, of course, exceeds the target of 5,000 megawatts. Sure. But he said that did not happen because of gas constraints. And I find that strange. Not enough gas to give us the kind of transmission that we require for adequate power generation. What do you think about what the minister said?
Okay, first of all, I think I would like to thank Mr. President for, what he has done so far. And I think in the past 1-2 months, we've had at least a certain level of improvement in the supply of power all over the nation, especially here in Lagos. A lot of people have been excited. We might have not gone or hit our target, but at least to a great extent, there's been some level of improvement. Now, and I also like to thank the Minister also of Power, who also was part of this project and made it happen. Now, coming to your question, one of the things I know that in life is that people don't really like change easily. They always want to fight change. I remember the time when one of our wonderful Lagos State governor wanted to do some things about clearing Lagos and making Lagos, people began to complain because he had to pull down houses. A lot of people had to lose some properties. And the general discussion or the general stuff was like, what's going to happen to the people whose houses were taken or their stores? But the man, I listened to his speech one day, and that's when I kept quiet. He said, what happens? So do you want over 200 million, that's about 15 million Nigerians to suffer because of our 600 people? Now, so change is something that we must be ready to take, that we must be ready to accept. But talking about this gas constraint, I'm amazed to hear that personally, because Nigeria is blessed with gas. Now, if there are some parts of the country where you go through and you pass, you can actually see this gas burning. So saying we have a gas constraint, for me, it's not in reality the problem or the challenge that we have. What they need to do is to see how they can convert that gas that burns for our use. And I know that it's possible. If you have to send experts abroad to go and learn and study how they can convert this thing for our good and allow these things burn, over and over and over, and nothing is happening, and we are losing millions and billions of dollars. So I don't agree, or rather I don't want to accept and believe that the gas constraint is the reason we're not able to hit that 5,000 watt target that we had.
Okay, so something will have to be done as regards the gas issue, because we are not buying it.
Yeah, we can. No. We have sufficient gas that we can convert. The only thing we need to talk about is the skill and the wisdom of how we can turn that gas for our good. Well, that's not a constraint.
Okay, now we are talking about working towards a smooth power sector privatization. And before we get to the labor issue, which appears to me the major setback right now, yes, I'd like us to take a look at the infrastructure. Now, if this reform is going to succeed, definitely the infrastructure to carry the expanded power transmission will have to be available also. Do you see us have that sort of infrastructure backbone at the moment that is going to carry or support the power generation that we are expecting? And if not, what has to be done?
Well, I won't say we have the complete or the full infrastructure or the backbone, but I know, like, we're talking about this privatization thing. Why are you trying to privatize? One of the ideas or one of the reasons you need to privatize is to improve the backbone, to improve the infrastructure, because when people come in to privatize, yes, they need to make money, but they'll definitely have their structures in place. So we are leaving it at present. In other words, if we're looking at the present situation, we don't have it. That's why we cannot just leave it in the hands of the government. The government has a lot that they have to do, and they focus on power is just one of the things that they need to, pay attention to. So for us at present, we don't have it. But I know that with this privatization plan, it will improve our infrastructures. It will improve, the structures that we put in place, and for us to have that very strong backbone to take care of. Nigeria is quite a big nation, and in terms of consumption of power and everything is so much. But right now, privatization for me is what will help.
Okay, but it is the responsibility of the government to make sure that infrastructure.
Yeah, definitely is the responsibility of the government to do that. I would not agree that the government should be given total control any longer, because, like I said earlier, they have a lot to take care of, but it's their responsibility. They've been in it for so many years. They understand these things. You cannot just come from nowhere and bring in some kind of people who want to take over things, to do things. No, it has to be a transmission. It may not be immediate, but they have to be involved in it from the beginning, before they can even totally hand over to any group or organization to take it up from there.
Okay. Now, amidst the privatization efforts, power sector privatization efforts, we can't forget the aspect of rural electrification, which is actually provided for in the Reform Act. Now, some time ago, that was suspended because of some scandals, embezzlement of funds and all of that. But really, what do you think, about rural electrification and how that has to come up also if we're going to have a smooth privatization that is going to benefit all Nigerians?
For me, I think it's important that we take advantage of it. Part of what we've been going through in the country now, the security challenge that we've been having over the years, for at least about a few years now, is because of this, what we call the same education or being able to expand the minds of people. So if you're going to always do things just in the urban areas and leave these people behind, the reality is that you are stirring up a lot of trouble in their heart, because they are not, sometimes they travel to have opportunity to come to the major cities, or they have relatives and they communicate. And so by the time they know that they are being abandoned, it will not even help for development. So many of our developed cities are already now too crowded, overpopulation. But if some of these cities or so-called places that we look at rural areas, if this rural electrification takes place there and there's sufficient power, it will encourage some companies, it will encourage some organizations to leave these cities to go to those places. Now, when they go there, it will definitely help to improve that environment. The cost of living will get better, life will be better. Some people will definitely leave these populated cities to go there and work. And so everyone will not want to rush to the major cities. When you talk about everybody wants to be in Lagos, everybody wants to be in Abuja, everybody wants to be in Port Harcourt, Benin, or just 4, 5, 6, but we have 36 states. So if I know that I can be in just any state, for example, and it's a supposed rural area, but I know that the light power being there will improve every other thing, I will not want to rush down here. And I know that it would generally help to improve our economy as a nation.
Okay, we're still looking at the topic that says working towards a smooth power sector privatization in Nigeria. And I'm still talking with Kelechi Anyalichi, who is a management consultant as well as a peak performance coach and a social expert. Now, like we did say in the beginning, one of the major setbacks to the privatization process appears to be the current labor dispute. The federal government and the staff of the PHCN, they are at loggerheads.
True.
The federal government is accusing the workers of trying to sabotage the reform process, while the workers, on the other hand, say that the federal government is trying to shortchange them. They don't want to give them their entitlements, their severance package, their gratuities, and all of that. Now, when this dispute came up first, what was your impression? What thoughts came to you when you first heard about it?
In reality, when I heard about it, I was not surprised. Like I said earlier, every time that there has to be change, people will always want to react. And people will always want to bring up some kind of information or whatever it is to try to protect their interest. So right now, the government has their own that they're having to say, the staff of PHN have theirs. And so we don't have complete information. Whatever it is that we're hearing today, some of these information, which I know may be doctored. I had an opportunity one day to be listening over the radio, and we heard the special advisor to the Minister of Power talking about this, and somebody else was talking of the background, and everyone is trying to. So when I heard about it first, I was like, oh, God, Nigeria, why do we always like to fight change? But either ways, for me, I just think that it's not about who is right or who is wrong. The important thing is, how do we make things work? Because good enough, this stuff are very important, but remember that we have over 150 million Nigerians that you are dealing with. Okay. And so don't just look in your own path alone to be selfish, whether as government or as the staff of PHCN.
Okay, well, the unions, of course, the labor unions representing the staff, they've asked the federal government to settle all these labor issues before going ahead with the privatization exercise. Now, do you think that this is best for the sector? Do you actually think that federal government is going to be able to do that? Because they, on one hand, say your demands are unrealistic. We can't, give in to your demands. And workers are saying, okay, we're going to throw the entire nation in darkness. So what has to happen to resolve this stalemate, really?
It was something one of our great mentors, Pastor Chris, said one time, and he always says this, that going on a strike is not always the best way, to resolve issues. He has always said negotiations, discussions, have intelligent discussions. And I think that's what is important right now, is for these people to come to the drawing board, leave all your selfish interests. Forget about whether, I'm not saying you're not worth whatever it is that you're demanding for, but sometimes look at things properly. This is a process. And also, if you can come to a proper agreement with the government, come to a consensus. You cannot just always stay on this side and insist that this is what you want. And the government also is not supposed to stay on the other side and insist. That's why we're having discussions. And so we can come to a middle point and say, okay, this is what I'm demanding, this is what I can do. What can we do to resolve this? Like I said earlier, remember that you're not just dealing with I don't know how many staff they are in PHCN, but you are not even up to 10% of the whole population of Nigeria. And so you should not be that selfish. But there has to be, but it's important that it's settled. It's important that it's settled because you don't just go into that kind of very, very critical, and important sector of the country, with troubles or with chaos, and also they should find a way to resolve those things properly. And I don't always like this idea personally of where you want to demand something and you feel that the person is always to shut down. So we shut down. Okay, there's a follow-up issue, and suddenly the next thing that comes, or you want to shut down this thing. Everybody's now learning that the next thing to always do to solve the case is shut down. But ask yourself, all the while you have been shutting down, who lost, who gained? So that's not always the best way. We can deal with intelligent discussion, bring proper facts to the table. Forget about your selfish interest. Let's stop being selfish and think about the general populace.
Okay, now from what I did read in the news, the workers were saying that there were some compulsory deductions that were made from their salary.
Yeah.
You know, and if you add everything up, there's
so
supposed to
much.
be enough money, more than enough money to pay. They're not saying, you know, they're against the privatization, but they want
based on the
gratuity,
records.
based on the records and based on the deductions that have been going on. But federal government says there's no such amount in the accounts, and probably some of your, you know, leaders and other people who were in charge of
True.
that fund.
Maybe
you know.
would have.
And somehow I'm seeing another
Twist.
scandal to the
Coming up
entire
again.
thing. And now, on the other hand, we have the company that wants to take over, and it's beginning to look like, okay, is this what I'm trying to get
Come
myself into?
and so you may have them stop.
Yeah, but really, what do you think about that fact that there might be another scandal coming out of this issue, and how that might affect the process?
True. Well, for me, I don't know why it always looks like when there's a change, stories begin to come out. According to you, you've had several years you've been paying these pension funds. We don't hold our leaders accountable. And so if they had started, so right now, the Nigerian populace, we don't have the record. So if you are insisting that you have been making these deductions have been made, before now you should have tried to ask questions. You should have tried to make inquiries to know, okay, these deductions we have been making, where has it been going to? Has there been reports coming to you from time to time? Because the government is insisting that they didn't see it, but these deductions were made. So who has or who took the money? It's somewhere, definitely. Even in reality, those deductions were made to the figures that they've been given, or the percentage, you know, they talk about it based on their salary. So the money is somewhere. And the government may be right. And I'm not being on the side of, but I'm just saying that the government may be right in saying that the money is not there. But who is the government? People. You and I, you know, people make up the government. So there must have been an agency or an organization that should be in charge of these things. And these people should be brought to question. We need to go through the records and ask them. But let it not always be when we want to have a very good transmission that we begin to hear all these stories. This was the same thing happened with the fuel subsidy issue. It was after we knew that they were going to, have that kind of increase. We now started, but these things have been taking place for a long time. So my advice or my counsel is let's not always wait. Let's always learn to make our leaders, get them accountable from time to time and early enough. If they know that they are going to be held accountable, it will also help to reduce that's because now it's a scandal, and if everybody's in the business to make money. So if a company wants to come in, no company wants to come in and buy trouble. So they have to resolve this thing quickly and as soon as possible for us to do. Well, it's funny and it's strange that such things are happening at this time.
Yeah, actually, they were meant to have, or they did have talks. They did have talks. I remember you talked about everybody coming to the drawing board. You know, no side or no party is to insist on their own demands and all of that. But they have had talks, and the talks have broken down. So apparently everyone is insisting on their own demands. What happens?
Someone has to break. I'm not saying the people should break or the government. Like I said, let there be a middle ground. Let it be a middle ground. You cannot... for me, such discussions are like, I'll use a scenario like marriage, for example, and two people want to get married, or they are coming for a discussion or a business meeting, whatever you want to do. You cannot just always come on your terms. There must be negotiations. If I'm coming to you to do business, this may be my price, and I'm saying, okay, this is the amount of money I'm supposed to charge. You have every right, I'm just saying in terms of business, to negotiate. So my counsel at this time, or my advice is, let's not insist, please. Please, we're speaking, begging, or pleading with the government, we're pleading with these people who are having these meetings. Please don't keep insisting. Let's come to a middle ground. I stopped taking Nigerians for granted, because over the years, we've had people saying to us that you will insist and you will insist and insist. And all of a sudden, from nowhere, you make some kind of funny negotiations without even getting us involved, where we cannot even make that kind of input again. So if you know you want to finally come to a middle ground, make it early so things can move smoothly.
All right, now I'm at the point, at the beginning, when the privatization exercise began, we saw a military occupation in the offices of PHCN, and workers are like, why all this military personnel? But the minister did defend himself that it was to ensure there was law and order and everything. What do you think about that particular act of sending in military personnel to occupy the offices of the PHCN? Was that?
Well, personally, I don't think it
wise?
was the best. It was the best of things to do, because we know the function of the military. They have rules that have been given to them, and I don't think part of their rules given to them was what was done at the time. Yes, as much as possible that you are trying to secure the nation or secure the properties and ensure there is no problem or no kind of issues. These things can be done amicably. There's a way you could have. There's a kind of presence that they can have where, without them having to be there to intimidate. Because you as a worker coming in first of all, and you see all these military personnel there, the first impression that you have is that they are here to intimidate you. And that is against your fundamental human rights. You know, so everyone, this is democracy for crying out. And I thank the military for all the good they've been doing so far in trying to secure the nation and trying to make sure that everyone lives at peace. But I am not 100% in support of them always having to bring them in with that impression, fine, you want to, these guys were not going to go there to bomb the place.
Yeah.
They may just be there. Yes, I know sometimes, and we Nigerians too, we also have to learn that it's not every time we want to react that we also talk about destruction of properties. Because for the minister, maybe from experience and seeing what he was saying, he doesn't want those kind of scandals. Yeah. So two wrongs don't make it right. Okay. So like I said, the government didn't do it good enough, but at the same time, the people also should learn in knowing how to handle such kind of situations without having to go violent.
Okay, do you think it would have been better if they had deployed police officers to the?
Yeah.
Or would it have? Would it have
well,
been
we know
we
know the impressions that we have at present, and I thank the Inspector General of Police of what he's doing and the way he's trying to reform the police and get them to be more effective than they used to be. I'm not saying that in the past they were not, but he's trying to step up. And it's good enough, but like I said, it's a process. But at least for security, it's supposed to be the police. At least you can bring in the ones who are a little bit more competent, who are on ground, who can still handle this. These people are not going to come there with weapons. They're just human beings who will just probably want to make noise, and even if they want to destroy things, they won't come. They will likely not even have a gun. These are civilians. They don't know even how to handle. So bringing in the military, for me,
was rather extreme.
Extreme.
Okay, well, we are looking at working towards a smooth power privatization process in Nigeria, and we've raised a lot of issue on top of the list, the labor dispute, or the stalemate or impasse between the government and the workers of the PHCN, that's the power holding company of Nigeria. Now, with all these things going on, I'm going to ask you to tell us, what is the way forward? If you have some suggestions, if you have a word of advice for all the parties involved, the government on one side, the staff member of PHCN, Nigerians, on the whole, what would you suggest that has to happen? What should have to happen for there to be a smooth, power privatization exercise, and for everyone to have the stable power that we have been promised by Mr. President in the long run? Okay,
first of all, like we say, let us agree and accept that privatization is of the essence. During the time of, thank God for our former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who was able to bring in the GSM in the communication system, and it was part of trying to privatize the communication sector. And you saw how these different telecom providers came in, and there was competition, and because of the competition, the services were being improved. And so my advice is, let us embrace this, but let's allow this transmission happen smoothly. Let's come into this thing with an open mind, and let's accept it totally. Some people also don't have belief in the government. I've heard people make some kind of cynical comments that, well, now because the tariffs were improved, the power sector, so they want to just do this for a very short time to make Nigerians, feel. But I believe in this government, and I hear the Minister of Power is one of the best engineers that we have in the world. Let's have confidence in him. Let's encourage him, but let's also learn to hold these people accountable on time. Now, they've given us their own words and what they want to say. Let's not wait. When the time comes, let's get them to listen. But please, our Labour Party, the unions, those that are involved, and all the parties, let's come to a consensus. Don't be selfish. Don't think about yourself alone. Remember that over 150 million Nigerians stand to benefit from whatever decisions that you make in the end.
Okay, all right, I guess that says it. It is of the essence, the privatization process, and it is in the benefit of everyone in the long run. So do not be the reason why this privatization process would not go ahead smoothly, and that goes for both parties because it is for Nigeria in the long run. We've been looking at the topic that says working towards a smooth power sector privatization in Nigeria. My guest has been Kelechi Anyalichi, who is a management consultant, a peak performance coach, and a social expert. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you so
and
much.
we probably will have opportunity to talk some more about the power sector reforms and all the processes that are going on to achieve all that. Well, thank you very much for having been with us on this edition of Let's Talk. We're going to do the same tomorrow, same time, same station, of course, and on the program. Thank you very much.
You're welcome to Let's Talk.
We sit down and talk. We need to sit down and iron out how Nigeria corruption, how we're going to do our job.
If one can stand up and say no to corruption, we're going to do our job because you're telling the system you are not just doing good for yourself or for the nation, you also do good for the future.
Boko Haram is an attack, it's a spiritual attack. It's a satanic attack on Nigeria. We must, if we come to recognize it, we will understand then how to look for the solution.
A sovereign national conference, how do we want to achieve that in our present system? We need to sit down and iron out how Nigeria should be governed.